This is going to be a short follow-up to the previous video, and I want to preface with the whole bug regarding Hollow Palm technique, maybe, where it wasn't displaying the damage properly. A user by the name, I'm not going to pronounce that, but yeah, this user posted on that video, and I believe they might be entirely correct. I've got this one node here where it's increased attack while on full life. So maybe what was happening was I was removing my helmet, and then that was removing life, and then when you put it back on, you're not at full life. So maybe that's what was making my damage go all over the place. However, I distinctly remember looking at the crit chance, and the crit chance is tied to your energy shield. So when I juggled around my equipment with energy shield, I would see my crit chance value go from, I believe it was 5.8 down to 5.3. So maybe it was something specific to day one, because honestly I've not had any issues regarding the DPS calculations ever since. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's still worth keeping an eye out, but as far as I'm aware, it feels as though they might have either fixed that, or maybe I was just wrong altogether. So thanks for pointing that out. The character is now level 71. I've just barely started doing tier 2 maps. There are no crazy modifiers here, but I'll just show you what the character is looking like. I'm a little bit bummed out because I've basically gone down the route of using charged staff along with shattering palm. And freezing mark ends up feeling a little bit less relevant when you're doing this combination. It just ends up being a very generic quarterstaff build, except you're using unarmed, I suppose. And I'll go into that later, but yeah. It's still looking pretty good. The clear is still, I don't know if I would say nutty, because once you reach this much density on monsters, especially with the besses, you can't really rely on just the mark being triggered every 5 seconds and then bouncing around once, because since the cooldown is every 0.5 seconds, you'll kill the monster with a rune, and then it'll bounce onto a second target, and then it'll immediately die from the chain reaction, and then it'll go on cooldown, so you won't get more than 2 marks, and then you have to wait for 5 seconds until you can reapply another one. So, I don't know, like, it could just be that this isn't the right build for that kind of setup, so I might tinker with that later, but as far as this character goes, yeah. I think I'm relegating it to just being a leveling tech, since you can only unlock Shattering Palm at level 58. You can use that with your first or second ascendancy as you're leveling through the campaign. You hit 58, you unlock Shattering Palm, and then since you're attacking so quickly, it's not a big deal to weave in one Shattering Palm as you're clearing through. So at that point, you would just toggle off the Mark Ascendancy and just focus on Tailwind. Yeah, like, you can't reliably do that with just the Mark. Oh, I didn't kill him. Is he still alive? Yeah. There we go. There's more. If it's not just this guy, okay. I was just gonna leave it there otherwise. But let's just zip straight into the boss, if I can. There we go. Show the single target, and then we can just go over things briefly. damage is pretty good. It's nothing crazy, I guess, but it's more than enough, right? Especially for solo self-found, your first character while leveling. Yeah, like this is solid damage, I would say, for a level 71 character that just barely got into maps. Although, on the note of solo self-found and the type of gear that you usually get on solo self-found, I have to admit that I got pretty darn lucky while putting this character together. Alright, that's good enough. This is probably garbage, yep.
Hello.
Okay, so let's start off with the gear. The most noteworthy items I've gotten have been the amulet, which is just insane. Like, the 2 resistance values are so good. And then you got +2 melee, plus energy, which is also valuable. I personally don't care about rarity, so this modifier is kind of whatever to me. The only reason I haven't maxed it out is because I want to throw a Abyss currency to get the Veiled modifier and then try to get something better on the prefix. But yeah, really nice amulet. The belt is also insane, like what the fuck is this? 30 resist, 25 resist, 142 life, it's tier 2. It's got mana, so if I play a mana-based character, I can also use this belt on that one. Really good. I didn't get super lucky with the Unveil here, but it is tier 2 stun, so that's gotta be worth something. The gloves are still my level 20 gloves. They aren't even the right defense type, but they've got flat fizz, which is valuable, and they've got the plus melee skills, which is important to this build. The body armor is pretty good. It's nothing insane, but it's good for my level. The values are nice on the modifiers. Has a nice chunk of life, a little bit of resist. And it has Spirit, which is worth noting out. When I go over the skill gems and Spirit gems specifically, it'll be more clear, I suppose. The helm's decent, nothing too crazy, just like energy shield, evasion, life, and then resistance. I guess I should just repeat myself in case you haven't seen the first video, but you gotta try to get your defenses up. Preferably evasion, energy shield bases, so that you can scale your hollow palm keystone properly. The rings could be better. These got flat fizz and then resistance. Don't really care about much more than that. The flat fizz could be higher. I have these 2 rings here, for instance, but these 2 rings are sorting out my resistances quite well, so that's why I'm using those. So to go over the skills and how interactions work, let me go to a testing area. Alright, so the skills. We'll go over called shots later. So we're using just Ice Strike. It's still the same setup. I did replace... Gee, what was I using here before? I think it was a... Cold Attunement, probably? But yeah, I removed one of the support gems. I kept attack speed and rage generation because I haven't found a jewel to replace this. But then I used a Crescendo, which lets you perform the final strike version twice in succession. And as I've said previously, the 3rd strike deals far more damage, so being able to repeat that twice is pretty good. It seems like this might be bugged, because sometimes when you're warping through different monsters as you're swinging your Ice Strike, you'll get the final strike to trigger multiple times. I haven't been able to recreate the bug, so I don't know what is causing it. It might be something similar to when you could use Rake Stomping Grounds, and then you'd cancel that with parry so that you wouldn't get the end lag, and then you could just spam that all over the place. But I don't know how you cancel the animation. Like, it could be that you kill a monster with a final strike, and then you quickly attack another monster with another final strike. So it's canceling that. I'm not sure. But I figured it should be worth mentioning that. Unfortunately, we're using the tried and true single target combo for quarterstaff skills, which is Ice Strike plus Tempest Bell plus Charge Staff. I don't really like running the same thing that has already been explored, but this is just outright what feels best, especially when you're scaling your attack speed on a quarterstaff build. So in order to go Charge Staff, you have to go Combat Frenzy to generate Frenzy charges when you freeze, and then you convert the Frenzy charges into Power charges through the passive tree. So that one's there. Then Herald of Ice, the usual, just AoE, Cold Attunement, Cold Mastery. Cold Mastery is worth noting, because since we're using Hollow Palm technique, then plus gem level is more valuable. Something I should actually try is... yeah, for Hollow Palm technique specifically, plus gem levels values so much that this support gem might outclass other ones. Then we're using the defensive combo of Wind Dancer plus Ghost Dance, which is, again, tried and true. We're scaling our evasion energy shield as much as we can, so it only makes sense to go down this route. So those are the 4 support gems, which is why you need a total of 120 spirit. And that's why the body armor spirit is valuable. Or if you can get it elsewhere, maybe in your amulet, maybe, I don't know if there's a unique for it, go figure. So once you have this whole block, you're only left up with 2 spaces. I'm using Killing Palm just for culling, just comfort. You can warp around, but you don't really need it. So if you find something better to do with that socket, go ahead. And then you have one more flex spot, which is what I'm using to supplement my clear with Shattering Palm. Now, why am I going Shattering Palm? Initially, I wanted to go either Wind Blast or Flicker Strike. The problem with Flicker Strike is that even if you load your mark to be applied, let's try to aggro one monster at a time. That guy's coming. So there you go. The mark applies when they reach my range, right? However, if you Flicker Strike and you have your mark prepared, you'll notice that I will flicker at the mob and it won't be targeted with the mark. The mark will only apply after the flicker hit goes in. That means that you can't really have Flicker Strike be the way that you zip through and you blast things that get the mark applied. This is similar to an issue I ran into where I was trying to make a build off of Shattering Palm, where you would only tap Shattering Palm once, and then it would pop everything so you didn't have to scale attack speed. I tried with Herald of Thunder, I tried with Armor Explosion, I tried with numerous different effects, and there's something with this game regarding multiple effects applying at once, which, I don't know how it layers, but you couldn't get it the way that I wanted, where, like, you would warp, you would hit with the Shattering Palm, it would apply the buff to everything in an AoE, and then it would explode and hit other targets with Herald of Thunder. Even if you juggled the gem order so that Herald of Thunder was above Shattering Palm, it still wouldn't work. With Flicker Strike, it's something similar, I think, but there's also the aspect that it's teleporting you, so it seems like the game doesn't consider you being within the range for mark application until you've already hit the target. But if that's true, then Close Combat wouldn't work on Flicker Strike. And it is a suggested support gem. I don't have a support gem here to show you. And I imagine that Close Combat does work with Flicker Strike, so it might be something else. It's beyond my knowledge, I won't be able to solve it, but yeah, Flicker Strike did not work. A small note on that as well is that we are doing the whole Combat Frenzy combo to generate power charges so that you could power up Flicker Strike to get additional strikes. However, the additional strikes are a bit chaotic, and they don't go on the same target that you clicked on. So even if this all worked, power charges would not be necessary for Flicker Strike. The other option is Wind Blast. For Wind Blast, I didn't feel like I was dealing enough damage, honestly, and a good chunk of that might be because we're using Hollow Palm, so we're able to attack multiple times. And Wind Blast isn't the greatest when you couple it with fast attack speed, because as you're attacking the monster, it's knocking it backwards. So you can't really get multiple hits in unless you were to move faster than the distance that they're being pushed away. Also, I did go purely evasion as I was leveling. There is a caveat where maybe you could build into like pure energy shields so that you can go pure crit, and then Wind Blast with crits would be able to one-tap. But then again, when you're doing Abyss content, having this cooldown, it kind of doesn't work well for clearing the large swaths of monsters. So, yeah. That leaves us with a passive tree. So, I think the first thing I want to mention is Hollow Palm. I could be wrong, so take this with a grain of salt. But I'm trying to think, like, you scale this with plus gem level, and because you're not using a weapon, you're limited to the plus gem level from your gloves and your amulet. When you get skill gems level 16 or 17 approximately, it takes a while to get to the next level of gems. So your damage is probably going to be capped there. And even if you get like level 21 gems, that would be your hard cap for damage. So hypothetically, I'm guessing if you get a really well-rolled quarterstaff, you probably could just throw the quarterstaff here, and even if you have this keystone slotted in, your damage could technically still rise up. I could be wrong, but I'm starting to see Hollow Palm Technique as just a leveling sort of keystone where it serves you throughout the campaign and until you're able to get a nice endgame quarterstaff with high values. So you save a lot of money and you get a very comfortable campaign experience, and then you just swap out of this and you get a quarterstaff. There might be some other niche applications where you can get your crit chance higher, perhaps, or you can just go like pure evasion and stack ungodly amounts of attack speed. I'm not sure. And I'm hoping that's not the case, because it's very flavorful, and I would like Hollow Palm to be something separate to the whole quarterstaff build. Using this just as a leveling kind of gimmick, it would feel a little bit disappointing. So yeah, hopefully I'm wrong about that. Now regarding going Deadeye for Hollow Palm specifically, as I mentioned, you would get called shots so that you can get Freezing Mark applied in an area, and then you blast things, and then those trigger Herald of Ice, and then you get nice clear. So this would be really good throughout the campaign, because Shattering Palm has a required level of 58 at its lowest level. Once you unlock Shattering Palm, this stops being necessary, because you will be weaving in your Shattering Palms in between. Once you do that, you remove these passives, and then you just go full Tailwind. Tailwind is just fantastic. It multiplies your already fast attack speed even further. It multiplies your evasion, and then you get this other buff where you get damage mitigation based on Tailwind. So it would just turn you into very tanky, very solid concrete build where you got your damage, your speed, and your defenses all checked up. The passive tree, on that note, is mostly the same as what I showed in the previous video. The only thing I've dropped has been the cluster for cold penetration, because I started using Charge Staff, so then a portion of my damage was also dealing lightning, and at that point it just didn't feel worthwhile. And the other things that I have added have been a little bit of crit, which is just barely what I was working on currently on this character, because my gear was swapped into energy shield evasion hybrids, and I garnered a decent amount of critical strike base. So as I'm coupling my crit chance up, I would get gear improvements, which would further amplify the effect of the crit chance nodes. On that note, it would be better for you to get all the crit chance first, getting these kind of nodes where you get increased damage if you've dealt a crit after that. There's a nice cluster here. And only after doing that, you would start scaling your actual critical strike multiplier. At least that's how I think things would pan out, because crit multi will only scale very well once you have a high enough crit chance. The other thing that has changed is that I finally made my way around here, so I picked up these two clusters that give me deflection rating equal to my evasion. And I have to say, as expected, the deflection mechanic coupling on top of your evasion is just a very, very strong defensive layering. I could just immediately feel the difference as soon as I got these two clusters. It was night and day with how squishy I was and how much this was actually contributing to mitigation. This cluster is also a large amount of energy shield, not so much because of these two nodes, but just this one node provides you with a good amount of energy shield. I think I got somewhere around 100 or 200 off of this one node alone. And again, this is a node that will scale as you get better gear. So yeah, I believe those are all my thoughts regarding this character, and the reason I'm making this video now, even though I'm only level 71, is because honestly, I think I'm going to be leaving this character off. I mostly like exploring interactions, and building this character let me see how this called shots keystone worked, or ascendancy passive I should say, and as well as hollow palm. So I got to clear those two out of the way. And I've learned more than enough about the character. I still want to tinker a little bit more with called shots, so I might respec this character into something else. But if I were to push this character, I would not be using called shots, and I would potentially move into just using quarterstaffs instead of this. So at that point, I'm just playing a generic quarterstaff Deadeye with Tailwind, so it's not too exciting to me. It's not wrong. I still think the character would be pretty strong for late game into mapping, but I have other things that motivate me further to play the game. So yeah, I hope your league starts going well.